welcome to Sisters in Sobriety. And today we are so honored to welcome Emma McAdam, a licensed marriage and family therapist and creator of Therapy in a Nutshell. And during the early morning hours as a mother of four, she began distilling evidence-backed mental health strategies into bite-sized YouTube videos. Today, her channel has over 2 million subscribers and 140 million views, making mental health tools truly accessible.
Emma's approach blends neuroscience, somatic therapies, acceptance and commitment therapy, and polyvagal theory, all packed into straightforward, shame-free strategies for healing anxiety, trauma, and intrusive thoughts. Welcome, Emma. We are so happy to have you here today.
Thanks so much for inviting me. This is fun.
So excited you're here. So, Emma, can you tell us just a little bit about where your interest in therapy began?
Yeah, ooh, how far back should we go?
Yeah, as far back as you want.
I love being outside, and I was working on a degree in recreation management, and I worked at a summer camp with kids, and I realized I'm not like that peppy. Like I'm just not that like outgoing or like exciting, but I really liked being like one-on-one with kids and talking with them, teenagers. And so I was like, after spending a whole summer at this camp, I was like, next year I want to work in a wilderness therapy program. So I took a job at a wilderness therapy program, a nice one, by the way, a nice one where we treated people ethically.
Okay.
Oh,
Good
are you watching
distinction.
Wayward?
Yeah.
Are you watching Wayward on Netflix?
I have not seen Wayward,
No.
but there's been like,
It just came out.
there's like quite a few like issues
Yeah.
with the
Yes.
treatment industry.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have to caveat that. Like Paris Hilton attended a school, Provo Canyon School's right up over here. I know
Yeah.
some people who worked there at the time she worked there, and they were like, yeah, it was absolutely abusive. I was like, gosh.
So you're-
yeah.
Go ahead.
So I went and
Go ahead.
worked. I went and worked in this wilderness therapy program as a staff. It meant I was out there 8 days at a time with this group of like 8 to 10, usually teenage boys whose parents did not know how to help them. And we'd hike and we'd talk and we would work on stuff and we'd hike some more and we'd set up shelters. And if they didn't set up their shelter the right way and it rained, they'd get wet. And, like we just, and it was so cool. Like the transformation we would see in 8 weeks was mind blowing. Like these kids would like shift their whole view on life in a couple of weeks. And I mean, that doesn't mean it was like necessarily a sustainable change, but it was like eye-opening for them. I reached out to one of them because like after all the Paris Hilton stuff came out about like abuse in these programs, there was a lot of, I think it was called Breaking Code Silence, where a lot of people were coming out on social media talking about like, oh my gosh, these treatment centers were so terrible for me. So I reached out to some of my previous, the students I'd worked with, and I said, how was this for you? And one of them said, yeah, my residential treatment school was like, I feel like abusive, but wilderness was a gift. It was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And I was like, okay, good. Because that was my experience too. Like these kids had these transformative experiences. So then I was like, cool, I want to work wilderness therapy for the rest of my life. But I don't want to be a staff forever because it's not sustainable to be out here so many days a month. So I decided to get my therapy degree. And then I never worked wilderness therapy after that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So journey, it started in wilderness therapy. And what made you start Therapy in a Nutshell, and what sort of surprised you maybe about its success?
Oh my gosh, I'm completely surprised by its success. Like every time people are like, yeah, it's 2 million subscribers. I'm like, what? Like who are these people who listen to me? So I worked, went to grad school, worked in an adventure therapy program, and then I worked in another residential treatment center. Then I worked in outpatient. And then I had my first kid, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna be full-time mom. And I got very bored. I had multiple problems. One was my brain had lots of ideas, and the other problem was a lot of people around me were like, I need help. Like I need help with this mental health problem I'm having or my kid's having. And I was like, man, I wish there was a video about this that I could send you. And as a therapist, I was still working like part-time as a therapist. But I was like, I wish I could send you this video about communication strategies or this video about the anxiety cycle so that in our session, we could really optimize the amount of time we have. So I thought, I wish this video existed. So in my 5 a.m.s, I would get up and like write the video. And then I just started making it. And for 3 years, I made like $0. Like the third year, I made $20. But I just kept making the videos because I thought, oh, this could help someone. I know someone who needs this video, so I'll make this video. And then in 2020, well, I was about to quit. Actually, 2019, I'd had my third kid, and I was like, I didn't have mornings anymore. Like, I didn't have any free minutes in the day. So I was making these videos on Saturdays, which was impacting our family. So I felt like I should quit. And I am religious. I totally respect people who are not. But from my experience, I prayed about it. And I felt very strongly I should just do it one more month. So this was February of 2020. I did it one more month. COVID hits. And in 2019, I had learned what SEO was, how to optimize videos. I had re-optimized all my old videos. And in March of 2020, 2 of my videos went viral and got 1 million views.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just got chills, like full body chills from that. Like you prayed for the answer or for guidance, and then one more month.
Yeah.
And your videos went viral. Well, COVID hit. And of course, people are going to be seeking mental health advice online.
Yeah, I mean, the one video that went viral was how to stop catastrophizing.
I love that.
Wow.
But I feel like so often the answer is like, move forward just a little bit further. Like you're uncertain.
Yeah.
Keep trying for a little bit longer. And it wasn't always easy after that, but we just kept making videos, and we're still making videos 7 years later. I mean, since I started, I guess it's our 8th year of making videos, and it's amazing. But I'm so grateful. You know, I get messages from people who are just like, I didn't know where to turn. I couldn't afford therapy. One guy's in Sudan in the middle of a civil war, and he's like, I just wanted to die. And then I started watching your videos, and I'm like, geez.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's.
What do you wish, Emma, that more people understood about the anxiety cycle and like emotional regulation? Like, what is like a theme you kind of try to get through in the videos?
Yeah. I think the number one most important message is like I would say the vast majority of mental health conditions that the average person experiences, anxiety, depression, like they are really very treatable. That like when you have the skills and you know what to do about them, you might still have inclinations toward anxiety or inclinations toward depression, but they no longer like impact your life in a way that's really harmful. Like you can still feel anxiety, but just be really good at feeling anxiety sometimes, and it doesn't screw up your whole day, week, month. It doesn't interfere with your ability to function anymore. And so like that's my number one thing is like actually with skills, like most people, like with the skills and practice, most people really can see significant improvements. And then like when it comes to anxiety in particular, I think the most important thing to understand is that our brain is designed to keep us alive, not to keep us happy. Like our brain's designed to keep us alive and not to keep us happy, which means it's going to be more likely to look for and watch for threats than is necessary. Like it's going to be overly sensitive to certain threats, but our brain is also very plastic and very good at learning what to be scared of and what not to be scared of. And what most people don't know is we are accidentally training our brain to be scared of things or anxious around things by how we act, not like how we think matters. It's an important part. But how we act shows our brain what to be anxious about.
Can you give an example of that? Can you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is how the anxiety cycle works. Our brain is constantly kind of scanning for threats. So let's say you are walking down a street and you see a dog. And then your brain's scanning, it sees it, right? That's the stimulus. It comes into your brain. And your thought is, oh my gosh, what if this dog bites me? So you interpret the stimulus as dangerous. And then the next thing you do determines whether your anxiety is going to increase or decrease. So if you avoid that dog and you don't die, so you turn around, you walk a different way, you cross the street, or you avoid doing something around a dog, and you don't die, your brain is like, okay, I didn't die. That must have been an accurate interpretation. Dogs are dangerous and they will bite me. So then your brain is like, cool, I kept my human alive. I'm going to make my human do that again in the future. Your brain's trying to learn what's dangerous, what's safe. So then your brain is like, cool, I'm going to keep my human alive next time because I stayed safe when I avoided that dog. So I'm going to increase my human's anxiety in order to keep them safe the next time, around dogs specifically. So when we avoid a stimulus that we interpret as dangerous, our brain is going to gently increase our anxiety levels so that next time we do it again. And that's how our brain uses like learning to increase our anxiety. But what most people don't know is they're engaging in all these really subtle forms of avoidance all the time, like that they don't even realize. So for example, worrying is a form of avoidance. If you're like, what am I going to say at this upcoming presentation? And then you worry about it and worry about it and worry about it and worry about it. And then you do the presentation and you don't die. Then your brain's like, cool, I better make my human worry more next time. Like your brain thinks the worrying is what prevented bad things from happening. It's like this weird superstitious thing we do. There's a ton of other forms of avoidance, including like substance use, screen use, intellectualization. Like our brain is incredibly adept at making up forms of avoidance. But I think this is really key to understanding how anxiety gets fueled into the place where it becomes disordered, instead of just simply being like, oh, I felt anxious, then I made a choice, and then my life continued on its path.
I think it is really important to understand how that loop is created and how it gets reinforced. And I'm going off script a little bit, but I'm curious your example with the dog. So instead of avoiding and your brain saying, oh, okay, I was right to be scared of the dog and it was going to kill me, and so we avoid, and so that creates avoidance, would it be then noticing the thought that comes up, the reaction maybe in the body, the emotions, and then making a different choice? So regulating yourself through walking right next to the dog. Is that... I'm going really simplistic here. But
yes. So that's a choice point, right? When you see that dog and then you make a decision about what you're going to do next, that's an opportunity to make a choice. And I use a lot of acceptance and commitment therapy. So we talk a lot about values. We make choices based on the kind of life we want to live, instead of making choices based on making our emotions change. So I would say, like, if walking away from the dog or being scared of dogs had very little impact on my life, like it did not change where I went or who I saw, like it didn't bother me, fine, make your choice, walk away from that dog. But if avoiding dogs is impacting your life in some way, or whatever it is you're anxious of, whether that's social anxiety or panic attacks, like you're anxious about your bodily sensations or you're anxious in those ways, if that's impacting your life, so like you have a grandchild who has a dog, but you won't visit their home because they have a dog, then you choose, I'm going to choose to approach instead of avoid that stimulus. And your brain, assuming you survive the situation, your brain will downregulate your anxiety. So yes, that's the correct answer, is approaching or drawing closer to the things that scare you trains your brain that you can handle it. And when you know you can handle it, then your brain is going to naturally decrease anxiety.
Oh my gosh, that's huge. I think if people could just take away this last, 5 minutes of our conversation from today, this is so huge, right? Like it is. Anxiety is manageable. And I think you've just given a beautiful, tangible example of what the brain does and how to downregulate. You are a mom of 4, Emma. You are a mom of 4.
Yeah.
How I'm a mom of 1. So if I times that by 4, I'm like, wow, that's, how has parenting influenced your view of emotional regulation?
Ooh, well, oh man, parenting is wild. I am constantly like shocked at how complex parenting is. I've got 4 daughters and one of them is just more anxious. Like she just is, just naturally more anxious. And I'm constantly reminded that with emotions, we need to go slow. We need to say things out loud a lot. We need the physical presence of others, like eye contact, hugs. We need and I guess the other thing that I'm really learning right now is true like love, like truly loving someone is simultaneously accepting and embracing and encompassing like them and like all their bits, including the bits we don't like, while also true love includes discipline and encouraging, like whether it's self-love or other love, encouraging the best out of people. So with my daughter, one of the best, my daughter with a lot of anxiety, one of the most loving things I do, like it's so hard, is that she doesn't like going to school sometimes. She gets really anxious about school and I make her go.
Yeah.
Like, and she
Yeah.
gets, yeah, she gets scared about certain situations, and I make her apologize to someone, or I make her talk on the phone. And that's like, yeah, you could call like compassion. You could, sometimes we think of self-compassion as like just allowing ourselves to have a bad day, or just forgiving ourselves when we make mistakes. But self-compassion is also loving ourselves enough to do really hard things. And I think that's what I'm learning with my kids. I don't know. What do you think?
It's a hard, like I'm more of that school of parenting, and Sonia will know this. 'Cause Sonia is my sister-in-law, ex-sister-in-law, but sister-in-law. And so my daughter is her niece. And, my daughter also suffers from anxiety. And, for example, I sent her to sleepaway camp.
Yep.
And there was a lot of anxiety leading up to that moment, but I knew that she was ready. Like I did. I knew she was ready. She had displayed other signs that she was ready to do this. Like it wasn't like I was throwing her out to the wolves.
Yeah.
And she grew so much emotionally and physically, even from that experience. She grew. I couldn't believe it. And it's in that discomfort, right? Like it's in that discomfort that we have that growth. And we talked about it the other day because she was formally diagnosed with social anxiety and generalized anxiety disorder. And she said to me, she's 11, she said, "I don't think I have that anymore." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "I really feel like I can go up to anyone and talk to them now. I don't feel scared anymore to make friends."
Yes.
And I really believe, like what your example with the dog and the brain, if I had enabled her to avoid,
Yes.
her brain would have reinforced that, but I didn't. And I'm not saying that's going to be the right choice for every child. So I just want to say that it's not going to be the right choice for every child. But for me, I knew intuitively that was going to be the right choice for her. So I don't want to take over this podcast, but I just want to say, Emma, like I'm fully aligned with what you just said.
Yeah.
It gave me also like full body chills around that, because it may not feel like the easy choice to push.
Yeah.
But it's, and maybe there's a line of too much pushing and not, and it's like knowing where that is. And that's really hard as a parent.
And I do think, like, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's not like we just go and do exposure therapy with the hardest, scariest things. Like I don't just throw my daughter into these things and like deal with it, have a panic attack and get over it. But it's like, no, you can create like a gradual gradated system to approach your fears or approach your anxieties. And that's like keeping it within your growth zone and not your panic zone is really important. Really important.
Right. Growth zone, not panic zone. And that can be difficult to figure out sometimes. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
but there's like actual, like there's an actual skill for this. It's called an exposure hierarchy. And you sit down and you take a problem that you're scared of and you break it down into tiny incremental little tasks. Because I'll give an example. So a lot of people are scared of getting an injection, like scared of getting a vaccine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you might think, well, I either get a vaccine or I don't get a vaccine. Like that is, and I panic if I get a vaccine and I don't panic if I don't get a vaccine. And what we would do for really gradual exposure therapy is like we would print out a picture of a hypodermic needle. And that might be like you would choose what was your level 1 on this scale of 0 to 10 with needles. But it might be like just looking at a picture of a hypodermic needle for 2 or 3 minutes a day. And just sitting with that picture for a minute until your body calms down. And then the next thing would be like you would handle a hypodermic needle, or you would give an apple an injection with a hypodermic needle. Like we would build this up and you would practice this repeatedly until your body calmed down before moving to the next level, which would be like watching someone else get an injection. And for whoever's like, if whoever's got a phobia of needles, like these levels might be different for you. Like certain things might make you anxious. So you build your own exposure hierarchy, which is like your ladder of fears, and then you start at one and you work on one for like a lot of repetitions until your brain's like, okay, actually I can look at that picture and it doesn't bother me anymore. And then you move to the next.
What do you think, Sonia?
So
what do you think about that?
I think, yes, I love that idea, right, of breaking things down. But this actually leads me to my next question, which is like, and I experienced this when I quit drinking. It was like, I didn't have that moment, right, to pause and break things down, because I think when you remove, the one coping mechanism that people have, like alcohol, it's like everything just comes rushing at you. So I know I've watched some of your videos and you've said that emotions are safe, right? Even when they're uncomfortable. So what about somebody who's been using alcohol to like numb their emotions? How do they start even confronting things like that? Because I remember my anxiety, then that I actually anticipated the anxiety of quitting drinking. Like I knew that my anxiety would be through the roof because I knew it was my only coping mechanism. So yeah, do you have any advice for people that are all of a sudden confronted with these emotions they haven't felt in a really long time?
Can I ask you, like, has your anxiety decreased since then?
Yeah, I think, but there's so many like confounding factors, right? So it's like I quit drinking and I was able to make all these other changes in my life, right? And so, and I was able to add coping mechanisms over time. But those first few months, like if I were to go and do them back, I still don't know. Like, I mean, am I going to go for a jog around the block in the middle of a like intense alcohol craving? I don't know. Right?
Yeah. So if someone's like currently drowning in anxiety, like where do I start? What do I do? I have a quick start guide on my website in my free resources section if anyone wants to check that out. It's like, here's 10 things you should just start with. And the first thing is like, hey, go see your doctor and just like get checked for physical stuff. Like let's not do 5 years of therapy before seeing if like, oh, like your thyroid's off, Like that's the first thing. Just check that. Like see if you have enough vitamin D in your system. See if your hormones are okay. Right? Like not just for medication, but for like, let's just make sure your body's doing okay. And then we pick low-hanging fruit. There's a lot of things you can do to treat anxiety, like so many options. And most people really have no idea how many options there are. I just finished like a poster and a project of like 500 treatment options for depression. And I'm going to start working on it for anxiety because there is, let me grab this poster. Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I can't wait. I hope this is like old school style, like poster board, like.
Oh, I love
yes.
So you probably can't even see it, but long story short, here's the general idea. Like when we're treating depression and anxiety is a mood disorder as well, there's so many like areas that this impacts. And I'll just give like the brief summary of like, hey, if you're going to treat depression, like this is kind of the order of operations that I would consider. And it looks overwhelming, but there's 10 options at the top or 8 options at the top. And you pick whichever one is easiest in this moment to do to start with. So I'll give you the chapter headings here, but it's like, okay, let's treat the underlying medical conditions. There's so many medical conditions that can contribute to anxiety or depression. So go to your doctor, just get checked, make sure everything's okay. The second, treat substance abuse. Okay, this is like which comes first, right? But the chicken or the egg here. But if we can treat substance use, like that's going to improve your mood. And then there's lifestyle changes like, learning new skills, which I have this long list of skills that really help with like depression, including assertiveness and schedule management, right? Like there's so many there, but we don't need to go into that. Leaving toxic environments, exercise, diet, sleep, social relationships. And then light therapy is one of the most effective treatments for depression. Most people don't know. Go ahead.
I've been hearing this so much lately about the light therapy and the mitochondria. This is like a thing people are really talking about now. I really like it.
So there was a meta-analysis done, which is a study involving hundreds of studies. And they found that light therapy for mild to moderate depression was more effective than any medication.
I saw that. I saw that meta-analysis.
Like it's effective for like 80+% of people.
Yeah.
It has side effects if you have mania. Like if you have bipolar and mania, you have to be careful about light exposure. And actually, like wearing light blocking glasses at night can prevent mania. But light, yeah. Yep,
I did not know that.
Dr. Tracy Marks has a
Wow.
video on this. Yeah, so your circadian rhythm, and oh my gosh, we could deep dive into like what's going on with light here. But your circadian rhythm and your annual rhythms are very closely associated with your mood, and so you'll see a lot of people with bipolar have a manic episode in the spring, like spring fever, when the days are getting longer, and you'll see them doing a depressive episode in October.
Wow.
Absolutely. This stuff, I could just go into this stuff. But long story short, if you have depression, doing 15 minutes of light therapy in the morning has, like, for severe depression, I would say do the Prozac and the light therapy, right? Like, let's get you out of this hole.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't use medication, but most people don't know that light therapy is as effective and it's lower side effects unless you have sensitive eyes or mania, manic episodes. And it's less expensive, it's less invasive. But it's not funded by the pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but literally,
No.
like that's why people don't know about it.
Yeah.
So aside from we interviewed a doctor who's really into light therapy, and her, suggestion was just like walk outside every morning if you can, like let your like feet touch the grass like without shoes on, and get 15, 20 minutes. Are we talking about that morning light? Are we talking about like going out as much as possible? Are we talking about using one of those like light lamps? Like what? And I know this is dumb, but like I wear glasses. Should I be taking my glasses off for like light? Like what are the details of getting this light exposure correct?
And I'm not trying to plug my channel, but I do have a video on this to explain it and walk people through it with links to non-sponsored like light boxes you can buy on Amazon for $150 or less. You can check out my video. It's on YouTube. If you type in light therapy in a nutshell, you'll probably find it. Okay. The best thing to do is to get natural sunlight first thing in the morning. However, when you're depressed, it's hard to be motivated. So this is always low-hanging fruit. If you're anxious or depressed, like pick the easiest option first. So you go on Amazon, you buy a light box, and I describe the types of light boxes to look for. Don't buy the cheapest ones. Carex has a good lamp, and Northern Lights has a good lamp. And you're going to do this 10 to 15 minutes a day while you're getting ready, eating breakfast, doing your makeup. It's indirect exposure from above is the best form of light therapy, first thing in the morning. And I think it's good to get light exposure throughout the day. Like I personally like being outside. I feel better when I'm outside. I like having my windows open. I like having bright spaces. Like all of these things are going to impact your mood. I don't believe you need to take your glasses off. The good quality light boxes do not have UV in them. I know a lot of glasses have UV filters, so you shouldn't need to take your glasses off. You don't need to look directly at the light bulb. But yeah, it's like 15 minutes a day with a good quality light box. Now, some light boxes for more severe depression, you'll want a bigger, more powerful light box. And for people with really mild depression, they can do less minutes on a smaller light box. But the bigger light boxes, you can also do like less minutes on. So like these bigger light boxes from Northern Lights are under $200.
This is amazing. And also, I just want to add, like, if you live in the northern hemisphere where like it is literally dark, kind of it's really hard to get out. When I leave in the morning to bring my daughter to school, it's still pitch black. When she comes home at 4 p.m., it's pitch black. So it's hard to get natural light sometimes, and more especially morning natural light. So that's like, I think this is a great solution.
I love this one because it's low hanging fruit. It's like very little effort required. And you guys know, like if you're depressed or if you're anxious, it's hard to do like things that require multiple steps or a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So it's like pick what's easiest for you. The other one for me, like my low hanging fruit is exercise. If I'm starting to go into a slump or I'm getting really anxious, exercise is easy for me. I love it. Now, do I tell my clients if you're going into a slump, you should exercise? No, because for some people, that's their like hardest thing. They hate it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You guys are like, no way. Yeah. So then what would be your low hanging fruit? Like, what helps you kind of get out of that slump when you're feeling anxious or depressed?
So it's almost like the opposite of working out, which is like comfort, right?
Cozy.
And so
Yeah.
cozy, yes, I love like a cozy
Mm-hmm.
blanket and a really good tea
Mm-hmm.
and like a book, and yeah, that's mine. Working out, I work out, and I'm sure at some point in the day I'm very happy I've done it. But
You don't
I
enjoy it when
like
you're doing it.
I I hate it from thinking about it to doing it to even drinking the water after. But then maybe an hour later, I'm like, I'm really happy I did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
And for me,
exercise
it's
Yeah,
is
it's
really good.
exercise.
interesting.
For me, it's exercise.
And a lot of people say that, but and I
Yeah.
think sometimes for people like me who it's not, it makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. Like you're
No,
like, why
that's
am
true.
I not
Yeah.
getting the like dopamine or what? Like, why am I not getting all the endorphins that everyone's like talking about from exercising?
Yeah. Yeah. And
But maybe mine are delayed, is what I'm thinking.
yeah, like you notice it later in the day. Like I feel better. Or like it's really gradual. Like if I exercise over the course of a month, at the end of the month, I'm like in less of a slump than I would have been. Like it's not.
But I agree, though, for everyone to find their own kind of like low hanging fruit.
Yes.
Like, what is it that makes you better? Yeah, for me, it's definitely like the cozy. Like, I'll be like, Kathleen knows, I'll be in a blanket in the middle of like
Yeah.
July. Like,
Yeah.
even for my birthday, I asked for a
I know.
blanket.
I'm so excited to give that to
That's
you
cool.
because I know it's really meaningful for you. And it's so funny because I wanted to get her for her birthday a weighted vest because it's funny. My low hanging fruit is
Yeah.
exercise, right?
Let's
Like,
go. Yeah.
She was
but
like,
that's
well,
not her.
yeah.
So I'm like, well, what
Yeah.
do you
She's
want?
like, she has said it twice about the weighted vest. She's like, and they're all like, I just have to measure you for it. You want it, right? And I was like, just because I'm a middle-aged woman does not mean
That's not
I want
why.
a weighted
That
vest.
was not why. It's because you do
you
work out
imagine?
every day. That's why.
Yeah, but like
It's good
adding
for your
weight
bones.
to it, literally. Yeah, but like adding weight is like my nightmare.
Yeah, seriously.
It's like, can you imagine being like, let's just throw some weight on this?
Okay,
Like,
I'm taking off.
okay. That's funny. Okay, so I do have a question about intrusive thoughts, which you talk about. And I think that it's also common in like early sobriety that you experience these sort of intrusive thoughts. So, what are some ways we can interrupt those thought loops?
Yeah. Ooh, it's a good question. I think it's important for people, and I'm like such a strategic therapist. Like I have a flowchart in my brain to answer this question, but like try and just see what works for you. For some people, like distraction works for them, or like just replacing that thought with a different thought. But for people who really get stuck, like maybe you've been struggling with substance abuse or OCD, and you're just getting stuck in these loops of like, oh, I can't believe I messed up so badly, or what if I really hurt someone,
Yes.
or like you're just ruminating. And I guess there's a couple different types of intrusive thoughts. Like when we refer to intrusive thoughts, usually we're referring to kind of like OCD, where people have these common intrusive thoughts like, what if I'm a bad person? What if I hurt someone? What if I don't know, like a lot of what ifs coming up. And with OCD, the best, like what we find is that the more people try to distract themselves from those thoughts, the louder those thoughts become. Because distracting yourself or trying to thought switch, like I can't think that, I have to think something positive. Like trying to thought switch tells your brain, this thought is actually dangerous. And my human is doing something to avoid this thought. And they survived. So I'm going to make there be more anxiety around this thought. And anxiety is one of the ways that like our brain uses attention. So I'm getting like too far into the weeds here. Long story short is if you have OCD style intrusive thoughts, like certain thoughts that just keep coming back, like what if I kill myself? What if I hurt someone? And these thoughts just do not go away. We do a form of therapy called exposure and response prevention. And it's basically saying, hey, these thoughts can be here and I'm not acting on them. And you do that over and over again. You actually get closer to these thoughts. You spend a little bit more time with them. And you say stuff like, thank you, brain, for churning out words today. Like, thank you, brain, for telling me your stories again. And this is a form of diffusion, where you're like diffusing this thought. You're making yourself a little bit less stuck from it. And you remind yourself your brain is a word machine. It's going to constantly make words. And just because you think something doesn't mean it's true. And so that's kind of the approach with OCD style intrusive thoughts is like, let's create some space between ourselves and these thoughts and start referring to these thoughts in the like second person. Like, I notice that my brain is making these thoughts. I notice that I'm doing that story again, that everything's going to be terrible and I'm going to fail or I'm such a bad person. So that's like kind of the first skill.
It's interesting that like, and I noticed it before when we first started talking that you like referred to like my human, right? And so is there something about separating these sort of like entities that is helpful for us? Like I am not my thoughts kind of thing, or like what is it about that? I don't want to call it dissociation, but
Yeah.
that sort of like separation that helps.
Yeah, so in acceptance and commitment therapy, this is called diffusion, as in like unfusing or getting unstuck from our thoughts. And if people practice mindfulness, they'll recognize this as kind of a mindfulness-based practice. But if you have a thought like, I am such a loser, and you're fused with that thought, everything gets filtered through that thought. I'm such a loser. Everything I do is idiotic. I'm so terrible. And it leaves you with very few options. You can like go eat a bunch of ice cream to avoid it or use a substance. Or you can like try to prove that you aren't that person by working out 600 hours every day. Or you can like give into that thought and be like, yeah, I'm just terrible. I'm going to curl up in bed and feel bad for myself and watch a lot of TikTok. If instead you say you say just these words, I'm having the thought that I'm such a loser. That creates just a little bit of space between you and the thought. You're like, I'm having the thought that I'm such a loser. Or I'm having the story that my husband is never helping around the house. And I recognize this as like one of my stories. Like this comes up. It doesn't mean it's true. It feels true. Doesn't mean it's true. Creating that space allows us a few more options. Okay, I'm having this thought. Then you can say, well, is this thought helpful? Does this thought line up with like helpful action? Does this thought give me resources or deplete my resources? Like, does this thought give me energy or decrease my energy? Does this thought give me hope or decrease my hope? And if we say, well, this is a thought that decreases my hope. I'm such a loser. It makes me less motivated. Then it's like, I'm not going to choose to act on that thought. So this is like where we go with acceptance and commitment therapy. Is like, what do I value? I actually value helping out my kids. So if I have a thought, I'm the worst mother in the world, does that thought help me be a better mom? It's not super helpful. So we create this separation. And then the third step of diffusion is like, I'm noticing that I'm the person having this thought. So that's the third step. So the first thought is like, I'm such a loser. And the second thought is like, I'm having the thought that I'm such a loser. And then like, oh, I'm noticing that I'm having thoughts today. I wonder what other thoughts there are. I'm trying hard. I'd like to make a plan to like get a better job, right? So we create more space between our thoughts. And one of the ways that we do this is talking to our brain in second person. Like for me, that helps me.
Yeah. So, okay, if we take this one step further, what is your take on affirmations? Where you're like, okay, and now I'm going to tell myself these kind of like positive thoughts. Are these helpful or is it toxic positivity or
I love this question, and I could take this question so many different ways. The first level I would take this question on is like, on a practical level, does it help you? Like, does giving yourself affirmations help you live a life more in line with the life you want to be living? So if your values are like, I want to be an awesome dentist, I want to be a great podcaster, I want to be an amazing sister-in-law, like I want to care about and support the people around me. Does this, like, do affirmations help you do that? And if the answer on a practical level is yes, then it's like, great, go for it. Yeah. For me personally, like, especially when I was more depressed, I could not buy affirmations. Like they weren't that helpful for me. Like they just didn't resonate. But on the other hand, like our brain does have a natural filter. We're going to notice, like negativity biases, we're going to notice the bad before we notice the good. So I think like a healthy practice is to do both and. Oh, I feel like such a terrible person. And like, let's be honest, some days I'll be like, oh, I'm not a very good mom. And then I'll look at it and be like, okay, my kids were fed, my kids were hugged, my kids made it to school. Like, let's be at least honest in our assessment. And I think being more honest in our assessment is a helpful tool, which includes gratitude practice, because it's so easy to notice like all the negative. Now, do you want to take this?
Yeah.
So do you want to take this to like the deepest level? Or should we move
Yes.
on?
Yes, because
Okay.
this is something I've struggled with where I've been given the advice, right, to do positive affirmations in sometimes, my darkest
Yeah.
of moments. And sometimes, like, my positive affirmation is, you're alive.
Yeah.
Let's do that for another day.
Yeah. Yep.
But those you're beautiful, you can do this, or like home goods style
Yes.
affirmations, they come off as cheesy to me,
Me too.
right? They just don't. Something in my brain is like, shut up.
Yeah.
So yes, let's take it to the deepest level.
Oh man. Okay. No, I love that you say that because that's how I feel too. Like everyone's always like, you should do positive affirmations. And I can admit that constantly like saying negative things to myself is not healthy.
Yeah.
Right. But being like, you're so beautiful, you're so amazing. I'm just like, oh, it does nothing for me.
Live, laugh, love.
Live, laugh,
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I do have a video on ways to do self-talk when affirmations don't work. For me, like, so I'm stepping back to a practical level before I go to like level 3 of Emma's deep thoughts, whatever there were. But like on a practical level for me, I'm so values oriented and purpose oriented. So my goal as a therapist is not to make people feel better. My goal as a therapist is to help people get better at feeling so that they can live the life that they really care about, like live their purpose and do good in the world. It's not just like sitting in your room and feeling happy all day. It's like, no, like there's good for you to do today. So when we're able to be a little bit free from our thoughts and our feelings, or we're just good at feeling them, then we're better enabled to do it, like live our purpose. So where was I? So going back to this, like on a practical level, I constantly go back to what do I value? What do I care about? What's my purpose? And that's way more effective for me than affirmations. So one of my values is learning. One of my values is learning, and one of my values is doing hard things. So the other day I was out climbing with my friends, and it was one of the first times, like we've been friends and climbing together for like 15 years. And we went climbing together again for the first time in a couple of years after I'd had all these kids and we'd all moved and whatever. And I was like terrible at climbing. I was climbing in the gym, but I just was flailing. I was not able to climb the same routes I used to climb. And I started having this negative self-talk. Oh my gosh, I'm so heavy. Like I'm so weak. I'm just no good at climbing. Like what's the matter with this rock? Why is this rock so slippery? And for me, what worked better was to say, hey, like I'm trying hard today. Like I'm trying hard and I'm doing hard things. And look at me, like learning more about myself. Like this is a good day to be here. And all of that works for me. Like I'm trying and I'm learning, or I'm practicing being nice to myself today. Like as soon as I shifted it to being about like one of my values, which was learning or trying hard things, then I felt like, okay, I'm lining my life up with what I want to be doing. Even though I was failing at this rock climb, my life direction was the right direction.
That is actually how I look at working out. So like one of my values is like health and strength. I think since I, got divorced too, where it's like, I want to be able to take care of myself. Like I want to be able to like take my garbage out and do these things. And so that is sort of how I, on days I don't want to work out, will sort of justify it. But I didn't even think about it, that if you pick like the value sort of that's important to you and like work backwards or forwards or however you think about it.
Yeah.
So I know you say this, and I've heard this a lot, that like you are not your feelings and feelings are data. So how does that help us when we're dealing with anxiety, and like what does that really mean? Because it feels like I'm my feelings.
Yeah.
Okay. Like a lot of it feels like I am my feelings, but how? Yeah. And again, I guess this is part of the diffusion, right? Which is creating that distance. But yeah.
Well, I think like for me, the easiest way to notice this is, to be honest, it's right before my period. I'll start having like big emotions that aren't necessarily proportionate to my experience, to say the least. And for me to see like, oh, that felt like so whatever mean that person did that, or I felt like such a bad person. And then, a couple days later, I'm like, oh, that was not a thing. Helps me kind of gain some perspective. Even though I might feel these things, it doesn't mean that it's always true. So that like, I often have to say, I'm feeling these big feelings, because I do. I'm very sensitive, and I don't say that in a bad way. Like I feel like everything to a big degree. And I have to kind of self-talk myself into like, hey, it's a beautiful thing that you're having feelings. Just because I feel something doesn't mean it's true. What can I do to best take care of myself and my family or my job? Does that mean I need a little break? I try to slow things down. I try to write it out, do a little brain dump and write it down. And I try to just delay any like reactions or decisions when I'm highly emotional. I've just tried to train myself. Like if I'm highly emotional, wait a day and then make a decision. If I'm highly emotional, tell my husband, hey, let's have this conversation after I've had a good night's sleep. I'm really tired right now. Can we talk about this tomorrow at lunch? You know? So like I think that awareness involves just like slowing down and for me it's like I do say this even though I'm feeling this it doesn't mean it's true. Now sometimes feelings are good information. But if you look at the brain, the way the brain works is the amygdala is like a smoke alarm. It's a threat detector. And smoke alarms serve their purpose. They just aren't always accurate. They're going to err on the side of going off too frequently to keep you alive, right? A smoke alarm is supposed to go off anytime there's like stuff in there, but you might be cooking bacon or you might be taking a hot shower and it's still going to go off. Does that mean your house is on fire? Not always. But we still want our smoke alarm to be kind of sensitive. So our emotions are kind of sensitive. We just need to like, just like if my smoke alarm was going off, I would go like check for smoke. When we have emotions, we need to ask like, how accurate is this? And we need to be aware of our stories. Like we all have stories. Like, oh, for example, some of my stories are like, my husband never helps around the house. Like that's a story. It is not true. Usually if you have words like always or never, it's a good indicator it's a story. So yeah, I don't.
That's interesting. And I know you just like mentioned that. So I suffer from hypervigilance.
Yeah.
A little bit, or that like waiting for the shoe to drop. Like I'm always not always haha. I often find myself that I do that. And so what are some tools we can use for someone like me? Like I need to that for my nervous system to feel safe, to let go of that. How can I take a break from hypervigilance or get a break from it?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is train yourself to relax your body. Do you know how to do that?
No, but I was going to ask you about somatic work. So yeah, no, I do not know how to do deep breaths. Like that's my only one.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, go ahead and notice the room you're in right now. Like look around, not just at the computer, but look around the room you're at. And are you in your present moment safe enough?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am.
So that's like, we're just using our stimulus. Our brain is constantly scanning our environment for threats. That's hypervigilance. And if we scan our environment, we move our head, we look around with our eyes, and then we remind ourselves here in this moment, I am safe enough. That sends a message to our nervous system that like, we're okay. There's some other things we can do. Of course, a slow breath with a slow out breath always feels really nice.
Big on the out breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use a lot of out. Huh.
There's some other things we can do, like to train our nervous system to regulate, to spend more time regulating. Sorry, I backed away from my mic. That might have been really quiet, but
No.
it's kind of a percentages thing. If we can spend a few more percent of our day each day in a state of feeling like here in this moment I'm safe and reminding ourselves in our body that, then it retrains our nervous system to be parasympathetically dominant, so more calm. So one of the things I recommend is for people to download a free app like Mindfulness Bell or Lotus Bud and tell it to go off initially around every 20 minutes a day. And then when that chime goes off, you do you look around your room, you say, here in this moment, I'm safe enough. And then you do something that feels good to help you calm your body. So slow breathing, deep breathing works sometimes, but for some people with panic attacks or anxiety, they might try to breathe too deeply and they feel more anxious. So if that one doesn't work for you, you could do tapping. I've got videos on all of these, like tapping. You can soften your gaze just like the Buddhists do, but now we know the nervous system reason. I mean, it's a vagus nerve trigger when you soften your gaze and notice, like I'm holding, no one can see, this is a podcast. I'm holding my fingers out at 180 degrees from my eyes, like out kind of beyond my shoulders. And then I'm kind of noticing, I'm keeping my head pointed forward and I'm allowing my peripheral vision to engage. So I'm noticing what I can see at the corners of my vision while my head is pointed forward, and using your peripheral vision sends a message to your vagus nerve that you're okay. Another one, this one's my favorite. Well, I've got two favorites. The yawn. So go ahead and do a fake yawn. If I do this in a room with people, maybe like 20% of them start yawning naturally. And that tells your nervous system, here in this moment, I'm safe.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of these you can do. Let me do two more just because they feel so good.
Okay.
Peter Levine, foghorn breath. It's like make a sound like you're a ship foghorn thing. Like, so you breathe in and you go, oh, oh, oh. If that sounds familiar, it's because monks have been doing this for like literally thousands of years to train their nervous system to regulate.
Is it about creating like the vibration?
Oh yeah. So yeah, we can
no?
talk about the science behind this.
Okay.
So the long, slow out breath also, like when your out breath is longer than your intake, that sends a message to your nervous system to calm down. So our brain and our body are in a feedback loop. I should back up a little bit. Our brain and body are in a feedback loop. When our mind is nervous and we think something's terrible, then our body gets tense. But if we have nothing going on in our mind and our body is tense and tight, or like bad posture or breathing, like if we start breathing like that, that sends a message to our brain, something must be the matter. I must be in danger. So when we soothe our body, it sends a message to our brain on a deep level to calm down. A lot of the exercises I just taught have to do with the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is one of the only nerves that's bidirectional. It goes both ways, from your brain to your body and your body to your brain. And it's really key in triggering that parasympathetic response. The vagus nerve comes down from your brain and passes just kind of by the roof of your mouth, and then it goes down. So when you vibrate the roof of your mouth by going, oh, or by humming or singing with these long, slow out breaths, that does trigger that vagus nerve to get signals of safety. And same thing with when you're yawning. When you yawn or you make the R sound, R, your soft palate lifts up in the back and it presses on that vagus nerve. Or
They don't teach you that in dental school. I feel like that would be important for them to teach that.
Oh my gosh, I bet you deal with anxious people every day.
Yeah, but we also talk about like soft palate, hard palate all the time.
Yeah.
And like, and like sibilant sounds and like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So Emma, what are you anticipating for therapy in a nutshell? What is like something you're looking forward to?
I have just finished reading Dick Schwartz's book, No Bad Parts. He's the creator of Internal Family Systems. The movie Inside Out was kind of based off of his ideas. So when I read No Bad Parts, I've been doing therapy since 2009 and like working in the field prior to that. When I read No Bad Parts, I was like, holy cow, this is good stuff. Like the exercises in it changed me. They resonated with me on a deep level that is very similar to like the core spiritual experiences I've had as well. These experiences of compassion that transforms you. And so I am making some videos to make those exercises more accessible. You should read the book, but for all of you who can't read the book, like that's what I'm really excited about, and I'd love to get trained and certified in IFS. It's like their trainings are booked out for 2 years, so like I'm gonna yeah, so I'm really excited about IFS right now.
I love that. Wow. Okay. So we will, well, hopefully we'll have you back before, but we will have you back as our IFS
Oh
expert
gosh, yeah.
at some point.
It'd be a while before I'm an expert, because here's the thing, right? I'm not doing very much therapy right now. I've got 4 kids and I'm a business and I just work a few hours, so I'm not seeing very many clients right now. So I don't know if I can even
Yeah.
get certified without doing a lot of clinical hours, and I would not be an expert without doing, hundreds of clinical hours. So I just like learning about it and
Yeah.
practicing it. So
That is super interesting. Well, thank you so much. I learned so much. I know our listeners did too. And we are going to link to all the stuff we talked about today, and some exercises into your YouTube. And thank you so much, Emma, for coming on today.
really appreciate you having me. It was really fun to talk with you, Sonia.
And thank you all for listening to Sisters in Sobriety, and we will see you next week.